When installing a generator, especially one with an automatic transfer switch, or ATS, proper grounding is crucial for safety and code compliance. The primary concern revolves around whether to bond a neutral at the generator, connect an equipment grounding conductor from the transfer switch, or simply ground the generator frame. The recommendation is to bond the neutral at the generator and connect it to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod. Here's a detailed explanation of why this is the preferred method and the considerations involved. Firstly, it's essential to understand the difference between a neutral conductor and a grounding conductor. The neutral conductor carries current back to the source under normal operating conditions. The grounding conductor, on the other hand, provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, allowing overcurrent protective devices, like circuit breakers, to trip and clear the fault. Bonding the neutral refers to connecting the neutral conductor to the grounding system. This connection establishes a common reference point for voltage and ensures that any fault current has a direct path back to the source. In a typical service entrance, the neutral is bonded to ground at one and only one location. This is usually at the main service panel. However, when a generator is installed as a separately derived system, it requires its own neutral bonding point. The reason for this is to prevent circulating currents and ensure proper operation of ground fault protection. If the neutral were bonded at both the service entrance and the generator, a parallel path for neutral current would be created. This can lead to nuisance tripping of ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, and can also create potentially hazardous conditions. Secondly, when using a generator as a separately derived system, the National Electrical Code, or NEC, requires that the neutral be bonded at the generator. This is outlined in NEC section 250.30. The generator then becomes the source of power when it's operating, and it needs its own grounding system. This is achieved by connecting the neutral conductor to the generator frame and then connecting the generator frame to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod. The size of the grounding electrode conductor should be determined by NEC table 250.66 based on the size of the generator's conductors. To install the grounding electrode, typically a ground rod is driven into the earth near the generator. The NEC specifies the requirements for grounding electrodes in section 250.52. A single ground rod is usually sufficient, but in some cases, two ground rods spaced at least 8 feet apart may be required to achieve the desired grounding resistance. The connection between the generator frame and the ground rod should be made with a listed grounding clamp or connector. The grounding electrode conductor must be sized according to the NEC. Thirdly, the role of the automatic transfer switch, or ATS, is to switch the load between the normal power source, typically the utility, and the generator. The ATS typically has a neutral terminal that is connected to the neutral conductors from both the utility and the generator. However, it's crucial that the neutral is not switched by the ATS. The neutral conductor should be a continuous, unbroken conductor from the service entrance to the loads. The ATS only switches the phase conductors, ensuring that the neutral is always connected. Connecting an equipment grounding conductor from the transfer switch to the generator is also important. This provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, even when the generator is operating. The size of the equipment grounding conductor should be determined by NEC table 250.122 based on the size of the overcurrent protective device protecting the circuit. The equipment grounding conductor should be connected to the generator frame and to the grounding bus in the transfer switch. In the scenario where the raceway is PVC or polyvinyl chloride, it's even more critical to have a dedicated equipment grounding conductor. PVC is a non-conductive material, so it cannot serve as a grounding path. The equipment grounding conductor provides the necessary low impedance path for fault current. Here's a step-by-step guide to grounding the generator. 1. Locate the grounding lug on the generator frame. This is where the grounding electrode conductor will be connected. 2. Drive a ground rod into the earth near the generator. The ground rod should be at least 8 feet long and should be driven into the earth until it is fully buried, except for the portion that will be used to connect the grounding electrode conductor. 3. Connect the grounding electrode conductor to the ground rod using a listed grounding clamp or connector. 4. Run the grounding electrode conductor to the grounding lug on the generator frame and connect it securely. 5. Locate the neutral terminal on the generator. This is where the neutral conductor from the transfer switch will be connected. 6. Bond the neutral terminal to the generator frame. This is typically done by connecting a bonding jumper between the neutral terminal and the generator frame. 7. Run an equipment grounding conductor from the transfer switch to the generator frame. 8. Connect the equipment grounding conductor to the grounding bus in the transfer switch and to the grounding lug on the generator frame. 9. Ensure that all connections are tight and secure. 10. Test the grounding system to ensure that it is functioning properly. This can be done with a ground resistance tester. Some additional considerations need to be taken into account. Firstly, local codes and regulations may have additional requirements for generator grounding. It's important to consult with a qualified electrician or inspector to ensure that the installation complies with all applicable codes. Secondly, the size of the generator will affect the size of the grounding conductors and electrodes. A larger generator will require larger conductors and electrodes to handle the increased fault current. Thirdly, the soil conditions at the installation site can affect the effectiveness of the grounding system. In areas with poor soil conductivity, it may be necessary to install multiple ground rods or use other grounding methods to achieve the desired grounding resistance. Fourthly, it is important to properly label all grounding conductors and electrodes. This will help to ensure that the grounding system is properly maintained and that any future modifications are done correctly. In summary, bonding the neutral at the generator with a grounding rod is the recommended method for grounding a generator with an ATS. This ensures that the generator is a separately derived system with its own neutral bonding point and grounding electrode. It also provides a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, protecting people and equipment from electrical hazards. Remember to consult with a qualified electrician and follow all applicable codes and regulations to ensure a safe and compliant installation. By following these guidelines, one can ensure that the generator is properly grounded and that it will operate safely and reliably. Grounding is not merely an afterthought, it is a fundamental aspect of electrical safety that protects both people and property. Ignoring or improperly implementing grounding procedures can have severe consequences, including electrical shock, fire, and equipment damage. By prioritizing proper grounding techniques, one demonstrates a commitment to safety and ensures the reliable operation of the electrical system. When selecting grounding electrodes, it's crucial to consider the specific soil conditions at the installation site. Soil resistivity can vary significantly depending on factors such as moisture content, mineral composition, and temperature. In areas with high soil resistivity, it may be necessary to install multiple ground rods or use alternative grounding methods such as ground plates or concrete-encased electrodes. These alternative methods provide a larger surface area for contact with the earth, reducing the overall grounding resistance. The NEC provides guidance on selecting appropriate grounding electrodes based on soil conditions. In addition to grounding electrodes, bonding jumpers play a crucial role in creating a low impedance path for fault current. Bonding jumpers are used to connect metallic parts of the electrical system together, ensuring that they are all at the same electrical potential. This helps to prevent voltage differences that could create a shock hazard. Bonding jumpers should be sized according to the NEC and should be securely connected to the metal parts being bonded. The NEC provides specific requirements for bonding different types of equipment, such as metal enclosures, raceways, and piping systems. When installing grounding and bonding conductors, it's essential to follow proper installation techniques. Conductors should be run in a straight and direct path, avoiding sharp bends or kinks. Connections should be made using listed connectors and should be tightened to the manufacturer's specifications. Grounding and bonding conductors should be protected from physical damage and should be supported properly. The NEC provides detailed requirements for the installation of grounding and bonding conductors. Regular inspection and maintenance of the grounding system are essential to ensure its continued effectiveness. Grounding connections should be checked periodically for tightness and corrosion. Grounding electrodes should be inspected for damage and should be replaced if necessary. The grounding system should be tested periodically to verify that it is providing adequate grounding resistance. The NEC recommends testing grounding systems at least every 3 years. When working with electrical systems, it's important to follow safe work practices. Always to energize circuits before working on them. Use appropriate personal protective equipment such as rubber gloves and safety glasses. Follow lockout-tagout procedures to prevent accidental energization of circuits. Be aware of the potential hazards of electricity and take steps to protect yourself and others. It's essential to understand the theory behind grounding and bonding. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, allowing overcurrent protective devices to trip and clear the fault. Bonding ensures that all metallic parts of the electrical system are at the same electrical potential, preventing voltage differences that could create a shock hazard. By understanding the principles of grounding and bonding, one can better appreciate the importance of these safety measures. The NEC is the primary standard for electrical safety in the United States. It provides detailed requirements for the design, installation, and maintenance of electrical systems. The NEC is updated every 3 years to reflect the latest advances in technology and safety practices. It's essential to stay up to date on the latest NEC requirements to ensure that electrical systems are installed and maintained safely. In addition to the NEC, there are other standards and regulations that may apply to electrical installations. These include local codes, state regulations, and industry standards. It's important to be aware of all applicable requirements and to follow them carefully. Electrical safety is a shared responsibility. Electricians, engineers, inspectors, and homeowners all have a role to play in ensuring that electrical systems are safe. By working together and following established safety practices, one can create a safer electrical environment for everyone. Generator grounding is not a one-size-fits-all solution. The specific requirements for grounding a generator will depend on a number of factors, including the size of the generator, the type of installation, and the applicable codes and regulations. It's important to consult with a qualified electrician to determine the best grounding method for the specific application. A qualified electrician can assess the electrical system, identify potential hazards, and recommend appropriate grounding and bonding solutions. They can also perform the necessary testing to ensure that the grounding system is functioning properly. Hiring a qualified electrician is an investment in safety. By entrusting the electrical work to a trained professional, one can be confident that the work will be done safely and correctly. This can help to prevent electrical accidents and ensure the long-term reliability of the electrical system. Electrical safety is a complex and evolving field. New technologies and safety practices are constantly being developed. It's important to stay informed about the latest developments in electrical safety and to adapt practices accordingly.